So last night I watched this really amazing preaching from T.D. Jakes called Insightful, and he talked about so many different things, but the one point I really want to touch on is developing your understanding. And this really hit me because I care so much about people and am just so loving and always give the benefit of a doubt because I always like to just, see the best in people. And when I would find myself in situations where I was hurt or didn't understand why things were going wrong, I realized it was because I didn't fully develop my understanding. And this applies to every area in your life. And some of the examples that I thought to use are both personal and professional. So I can start with personal. So when I was younger, my dad is overly protective of me. I'm such a daddy's girl, but I just remember growing up, he would always tell me, focus on your career and your school first before your boyfriend and your love life. Like, don't have boyfriends at that time. And when I was younger, I would always think like, okay, like he just doesn't want me to have a boyfriend just because he's my dad and he's just being a dad and just doesn't want me to have a boyfriend. And it wasn't until I got older that I fully understood why he didn't want me to be in relationships or focus on boyfriends when I was still in high school and college. And it was because, one, that wasn't going to last, and two, they ended up being a distraction when it came to my career. And that was one of the biggest personal things that I really had to develop an understanding for when it came to my career. When I've been in this industry for 8 years, but I remember when I first got in it, I was very overly wanted to make sure that the guys that I was communicating with when it came to work, whether that was to set up an interview or meeting an artist, I had to overly tell people I am not that type of woman, or not flirt, just not be the typical what they expected in the industry. And I just remember that was one of my main things. I can't even think of a perfect example, but even if it was, I'd be so paranoid to even ask an artist for an interview because I didn't want them to think I was a groupie or going to a manager or their publicist or whoever, and fearing that they wouldn't take me seriously because they thought I was a groupie or something. Because when I first started doing interviews, I had to do those interviews in clubs and use a fake ID to get in because I wasn't even 21. So I was just overly thinking everything, and it wasn't until I was in the industry longer where I realized I didn't have to do that. I developed this understanding where I didn't have to overly explain myself or try to prove that I wasn't that type of woman because my work and my actions already showed that. So there's just so many different things that you have to just fully understand. And one thing that T.D. Jakes said that really got to me was if you don't develop a true understanding or a good understanding on certain things or situations, you end up being in pain all these years over a bad understanding. And that made me realize it's what is it that you're in pain in right now? Something that has upset you or is hurting you in this moment, you're thinking about it right now. Do you have a full understanding of that situation that you're upset about? Or are you just assuming that the situation is what it is? And when I say that, I mean, if it has to deal with another person, have you fully understood where that person is coming from? And I am not saying that to always give a benefit of a doubt, because there's a fine line between being understanding and being a pushover. I'm just saying, whatever it is that you don't have an understanding about, have you communicated with that person to see, was that really what the issue is, and do you have that proper understanding on it? And if you haven't, you should. And do you understand why this happened to you? Do you understand why you keep going through the same situation? Do you understand how to avoid having to go through that same thing you're upset about in this very moment again? And if you don't, you need to develop your understanding. And that is the main point of this video. I just want you guys to develop your understanding on a situation that is hurting you right now, and moving forward, just try to always, by default, just try to find an understanding before you get upset, before you start like having a pity party, whatever that is, and just develop an understanding. And when you do have that understanding, you will live such a better life. You will understand that everything happens for a reason, and you will just be at more peace, and your peace is everything. So if you guys enjoyed this video, comment below and let me know. And if you want to watch that preaching, which I highly recommend that you do, because like I said, the understanding part was probably like 5 minutes of that whole preaching, and it's about an hour, and it's really good, and it's about insight. It's called Insightful by TD Jakes. I'll put it in the description below, and I will see you guys next week.